In this video, I am sharing a simple method for painting World War II German Heer infantry figures in 1/35 scale. These techniques are meant for figures that will be part of a larger diorama, where the goal is convincing results without too much time and effort. We'll cover painting faces, Feldgrau uniforms, equipment, and weapons using straightforward techniques that work well for background figures. Before we get started, it helps to have good lighting, and if you're like me and your eyes aren't what they used to be, some magnification can help too. You also want a comfortable working position so you can brace your hands and arms while painting. When painting, it's a good habit to try to use the same paint stroke whenever possible. Most painters use a simple downward pulling motion. When you can, rotate the model so you can use that stroke instead of twisting your brush hand into an awkward position. If you do this consistently, you'll naturally build better control over time just through repetition. Sometimes when painting very small details, it can even help you to hold your breath for a moment to steady your hand. Also be aware that your hand position on the brush matters. The closer your grip is to the tip, the more control you usually have. A quality brush with a good belly and a sharp tip is extremely important. I use Kolinsky sable brushes, and they're well worth the investment if you take care of them. Very tiny brushes are often not helpful for this kind of work because they don't hold much moisture. A good quality size 0 or 1 brush, sometimes even a number 2, usually works much better. Make sure your paint is properly thinned, and before touching the model, gently unload a little paint on a paper towel so you don't accidentally flood the area. For painting flesh, it's best to keep things simple and only use a few paints. I'm using beige red as my base color, which works well for many European skin tones. Start by painting all the exposed flesh in that base tone. Don't worry about the eyes, lips, or facial hair yet. Just get a nice smooth base coat down. Once the base coat is dry, you can paint the eyes if you want to. For the sclera, avoid pure white. It's too bright and can make the figure look bug-eyed. Instead, use a very light flesh tone, an off-white or a white-gray color. When painting the eyes, don't stab the model with the tip of the brush. Instead, approach from the side and use the side of the brush tip to gently apply the paint. Mistakes will happen, and that's completely normal. Once the sclera is painted, you can add the iris. A dark brown or a dark blue works well for the iris. Avoid pure black since it tends to look too harsh. Next, we can add some highlights using a mix of beige red and basic skin tone. Keep these subtle. You don't want bright highlight spots popping out on the face. Just touch a few areas like the cheekbones, the bridge of the nose, and maybe the upper lip. If the area wouldn't naturally catch light, don't highlight it. Since this figure will be wearing a helmet, most of the face will be in shadow, but these small highlights help keep the face readable from a distance. Finally, we can add some shading to give the face a little more depth. You can do this with a very thin wash over the whole face, but make sure it doesn't pool in awkward places. Another approach I like is using flesh tone speed paint like Peachy Flesh from the Army Painter. When lightly thinned, it works very well as a glaze to deepen the shadows. Apply it gently in areas like the eye sockets, the ears, the cheeks, the mouth, and under the jaw. Once that's done, the face is basically finished. If you want to add some eyebrows, now you can. But remember, they usually look better if a little bit of the flesh tone shows through. Build them gradually, almost like a 5 o'clock shadow, and then darken them slightly if needed. You can also add a matte varnish to protect the paint. Now I'll show a simple way to paint the Feldgrau uniform used by German Heer Infantry during World War II. Since these figures are background characters in a diorama, the goal is to get convincing results quickly without spending a huge amount of time. Feldgrau is often painted too green. In reality, it usually reads more gray with a subtle green tone, and it varied quite a bit depending on dye lots, wear, and fading. I started by painting the basic field gray color using field gray from Vallejo. At 1/35 scale, it's usually better to start slightly lighter than you think because washes and shading will darken it later. For the undershirt, I use a dark green camo color, also from Vallejo. Now don't panic if the uniform looks a bit too gray at first. The washes and shadows will bring the green tone back later. To add some highlights, I mixed field gray with a little green gray and applied it to the edges and raised areas of the uniform. I also used a mix of camo green and field gray in some of the deeper recesses to create subtle shadows in the folds of the uniform. Keep the highlights and shadows fairly subtle. Too much contrast can make the uniform look a bit cartoonish at this scale. For the buttons and belt buckle, I used flat aluminum paint. The leggings are painted with German beige, and I used grim brown or medium brown for the legging straps. For the boots and Y straps, I used smoke black. For the rank and other small details, you can paint them by hand, but in this case, I used decals from Tamiya for the collar tabs, epaulets, and belt buckle to help enhance the appearance of the figure. Once everything was painted, I applied a military shader wash from the Army painter to the uniform and the leggings, and I used a dark tone wash for the black leather. This helps settle into the folds and add some extra depth to the sculpt. When painting the equipment for German Heer Infantry, it's important not to go crazy with the colors. Making every piece of equipment a completely different color can look a bit odd. Instead, try to build on the colors already present in the uniform so everything feels cohesive while still adding some visual interest. For the black leather items, things like the bayonet scabbard, holster, sight case, and similar gear, I start with smoke black. It's important not to use pure black for the base color because that makes it very difficult to add shadows later. Using a near black color instead lets the wash settle into the recesses and helps bring out the details with very little effort. If you want to add a little more definition, you can lightly highlight the raised edges with a dark gray that's 1 or 2 shades lighter than the base color. For the shovels, use a dark green or field gray for the exposed metal blade. Paint the straps smoke black and use a buff or cork color for the wooden handle. Once everything is dry, apply a medium or dark brown wash to tie the colors together. Just make sure the wash doesn't pool on the smooth surfaces of the wooden handle. For items like the duffel bag and the MP40 magazine pouches, I mix German beige and medium brown to get a slightly worn canvas tone. The straps and loops can be painted smoke black, grim brown, or medium brown. If any metal rings are exposed, you can touch them with a little flat aluminum. Then apply a mid-brown wash over the whole piece to bring out the folds and stitching. For the canteen, I paint the body medium brown, the lid field gray or German gray, and the strap smoke black. Then I apply a dark brown wash. The map case is painted deep brown and shaded with a dark brown wash. If you want to add some wear, mix the deep brown with a little ochre or beige and lightly touch the raised edges. The gas mask case and canister are painted field gray. Then highlight the raised areas using field gray mixed with green gray or just straight green gray. An overbrushing technique works very well here and makes this step quick and easy. After that, apply either a dark green wash or the same military shader wash used on the uniform. You can paint the poncho field gray and apply a wash, but if you already have the colors on your palette, it's not much extra effort to paint a simple camouflage pattern. Start with German beige. Then add a few irregular shapes of medium brown and camo dark green. Don't worry about making the pattern perfect. At this scale, it just needs to read correctly. If you want to add a little extra detail, you can lightly paint a few small dashes in dark camo green or a German gray. The straps can be painted smoke black or dark brown. The infantry equipment is a great opportunity to add some extra interest to a figure without spending a lot of additional time. Taking a few moments to pick out the small details can make a big difference in how the finished figure looks. The weapons on these figures are actually very easy to bring to life with just a few simple steps. For the metal parts of the weapon, I like to use Tamiya XF69 NATO Black, or a similar near black color like smoke black. Using a near black color instead of pure black helps keep the details visible and makes it easier to add depth later. For any wooden parts, such as the stock, I use cork or a buff color as the base. Once the base colors are dry, I apply a wash to bring out the details. For the wood, I use a medium or strong tone brown wash, depending on how dark I want the wood to appear. For the metal parts, I use a black wash to deepen the shadows and define the small details. To add some subtle wear and bring the metal to life, I use a graphite stick and lightly rub it along the edges and areas where the weapon would see regular contact. This adds a slight metallic sheen that can significantly improve the look of the weapon with very little effort. For the slings, I simply glue small strips of Tamiya tape near the sling attachment points. Once the glue is dry, I paint the tape using a deep brown color, making sure to paint both sides. After the paint has dried, I apply a dark brown wash to add some depth. These small details don't take much time, but they can make the weapons look much more convincing and help bring the entire figure together. Using simple techniques like these makes it possible to paint an entire group of figures fairly quickly while still achieving convincing results on the tabletop or in a diorama. Remember that at this scale, these figures will usually be viewed from a few feet away, so the goal is readability to contrast rather than perfection under magnification.